It is 9 o'clock, and I am going to call this Community Homeless Advisory Board meeting to order. We will start with the salute of the flag, and can Neoma Jordan please lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please lead us into roll call?
Certainly. Commissioner Hill, Chair.
Here.
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Vice Chair. Bob Lucy is absent. Councilmember Devin Reese.
Here.
Councilmember Christopher Dare.
Here.
Councilwoman Bonnie Weber. Here. Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now we have public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the board agenda. The board will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the board as a whole. Do we have any public comment?
We have nobody signed in.
Okay. The first item on our agenda is a proclamation, and I would like to read this. I'm going to go down and read this, and then I was hoping we could all get a picture together. Yes, with Neoma Jordan, and I'm hoping also staff, because staff really pulled so much of this collaboration together. So I'm just going to run down and read this. Read your fair share, but how many have you gotten?
I think this might be my first.
Oh, yay. This is a proclamation from Washoe County, Nevada, whereas Neoma Jordan has served the city of Reno since November 2012 as a council member and has been an advocate for our unhoused population since she was elected to the city council. And whereas she saw an opportunity to give our unemployed population an opportunity to gain valuable experience by creating the Reno Works program, in turn making our area better. And whereas she observed that there were many different nonprofit and governmental agencies working in homeless issues and utilized her role as a leader and council member to bring these groups together. And whereas she has been an integral part in creating the Community Homeless Advisory Board, CHAB, and whereas with her leadership, CHAB has achieved a regional approach to homelessness through Our Place Shelter, separating men and women, the CARES campus, and adoption of a Built for Zero and Housing First model. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Community Homeless Advisory Board, CHAB, does hereby proclaim September 12, 2022 as Neoma Jordan Day. Be it further resolved that the Community Homeless Advisory Board encourages all citizens to follow Neoma Jordan's example in supporting our most vulnerable populations with collaboration, innovation, and leadership of empathy and compassion for our fellow community members. Dated this 12th day of September and signed by me. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
You've been an amazing leader. Please,
Thank you.
if you want to say anything.
Thank you. My goodness, I get a day? Holy smokes. Thank you. So unexpected and appreciated. Commissioner Hill, Chair Hill, it was just the honor of my lifetime to serve on the city council. But probably the highlight of it was the work that we all did. I know it's Neoma Jordan Day, but I'm going to say it doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it doesn't happen with the entire community pulling together and working towards a common goal, and that's to make things better than we found them. And you all are doing the hard work, and to include staff in this photo is so incredibly appropriate. None of this happens without them. They're doing the real work behind the scenes. And I know it has just begun, but you guys have really all moved the needle by coming together, working together, and making positive change. And I look forward to all the great work you'll do going forward. Thank you for the honor.
Yes. All right, come on, we'll go in
In the well?
circle area. And staff, you know, please join us. Come on, get up all the time. Eric, you come on. Dana, Kay, I just want to go. Thank you, board members, for indulging me. That motion was, or that proclamation was read as a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, yes, Councilmember Reese. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none. Okay, thank you so much, Councilwoman Jordan. I will always call you that, even though you are Neoma Jordan now. So, all right, we are on to item 5, approval of the minutes from the June 13th, 2022 Community Homeless Advisory Board meeting.
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll go to item 6, the City of Sparks Housing Programs presentation by Amy Jones. And this is a non-action item.
Of the board. For the record, my name is Amy Jones, Housing Specialist for the City of Sparks. And I am before you today to present on the City of Sparks housing programs. Okay. The City of Sparks is an entitlement community, and we receive an annual allocation of community development block grant funds. And our annual award varies in between $650,000 to $695,000 annually. The city has historically utilized our CDBG funds toward the administration of the emergency repair grant and the Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program. The two programs benefit City of Sparks low to moderate income homeowners, and the city is also proposing in our 2022-2023 annual action plan to include an activity to allocate funds to support the operations of homeless youth. The emergency repair grant provides up to $10,000 to homeowners residing in the City of Sparks to address emergency repairs in their home. The amount has been increased from prior years due to the current market conditions. Eligible households must have an income at or below 80% area median income, and repairs include health and safety, such as water heater repairs, HVAC replacement, floor repairs, electrical repairs, plumbing, or ADA improvements. Past residents that have benefited from the program have included elderly homeowners on a fixed income that don't have the resources to make these repairs. Residents are not required to repay these funds. This is a photo of a water heater replacement that was completed through the emergency repair grant. And on this slide, you will see a home that had single pane broken windows, and the windows were repaired utilizing the emergency repair grant. The Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program allows up to $25,000 to assist homeowners making repairs in their homes, and again, health and safety concerns. This amount was also increased from prior years due to the current market. Homeowners are able to request assistance with necessary repairs that they cannot afford. And again, these repairs may include a roof replacement, floor replacement, ADA improvements, window replacements, sewer or electrical repairs, siding replacement, or water damage. Again, eligible households must earn less than 80% of area median income. The Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program is a loan, and the loan is secured by a deed of trust, and it is repaid at the time the house is sold or changes ownership. Similar to the emergency repair grant, the Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program has assisted elderly homeowners on a fixed income that may have lived in their home for many years. This photo shows the before and after of a garage door replacement. This homeowner also received repairs in their home, including window repair and roof and fascia repairs. The Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program assisted this resident with replacing their roof. As I mentioned earlier, the City of Sparks has proposed in our 2022-2023 annual action plan to assist the operations of nonprofits that provide shelter and services to homeless youth in Washoe County. This is a new activity for the city of Sparks. The city recognizes the important work these agencies provide to the community and want to continue to support those efforts. In addition to the Emergency Repair Grant Program and the Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program, the city allocates CDBG funds annually to Silver State Fair Housing. The funding goes toward educating the community on housing rights. Silver State Fair Housing provides training to housing providers, and they help residents of Washoe County investigate claims of discrimination and assist in filing a complaint to HUD if necessary. The City of Sparks staff held a podcast with the executive director of Silver State Fair Housing that aired on August 26, educating community members on their housing rights. The City of Sparks allocated their entire allocation of private activity bond cap to the Nevada Housing Division. The bonds support the Nevada Housing Division's Home as Possible program and the development of new and affordable housing and preservation of affordable housing. In past years, the city has split that allocation between the Nevada Housing Division and the Nevada Rural Housing Authority for their respective affordable housing programs. And in the past 3 years, the Nevada Housing Division Home as Possible program has assisted 135 Sparks residents to purchase a new home. The city submitted an application for ARPA funds through the Nevada Housing Division, and if awarded, the city desires to purchase vacant parcels for affordable housing projects. The parcels would allow for the development of approximately 6 to 20 units, depending on the number of parcels purchased. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that slide. The city is waiting for HUD approval on our 2022-2023 annual action plan. Once approved, the city will resume the Deferred Loan Homeowner Rehabilitation Program and the Emergency Repair Grant Program and begin implementing the Homeless Youth Program. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Do any board members have comments or questions? Yes, Councilmember Weber.
I think this is so awesome. Thank you, Amy.
It's not all me.
I just say good job, thank you, and I know we get to go over all this information. Can you explain, just for everyone, anybody wondering, when we say we're helping with the youth programs, where does that go and who exactly are we helping?
We will be advertising a request for proposals, and then we will have the providers within Washoe County solicit, and we can award that to more than one nonprofit. So we'll be doing that in the upcoming month or two.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
That's great. Do you have anything, Councilmember Reese? I guess I'm really excited about your ARPA grant. I hope you get that. Have you heard anything from the state?
We submitted the initial application, and we actually just got the second round to say
Yay.
you're eligible to submit a full application. So that's where we're at right this second.
That's
we just
great.
got that, I think a day ago. So
And would you work with Reno Housing Authority to develop it, or who knows, RFQ developer?
the idea would be to do a request for proposals
Okay.
with the hope of nonprofits, Reno Housing Authority, developers that want to support low-income housing, whatever, who would apply for that.
That's
So
great.
It's exciting.
And it's not super dense, so it's 6 units here on this parcel, and, so it's very neighborhood feel, it sounds like. The missing middle, kind of what we've been pushing for.
It depends on the parcel that we
Right.
would be able to obtain what the unit makeup on that parcel would look like.
And do you have all those parcels mapped out? I'm assuming you do.
We have parcels in mind, yes,
Yes.
that we would like to purchase.
That's great. Great job, guys.
We can't tell you.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Otherwise, the price will go up.
This is what we've been needing, and this is that direct housing support. So
You didn't realize your husband put your house up for sale?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, let's make it. Well,
I'd just like to say one more thing. I am extremely excited about one of the programs, and that is the, was it the residential, I don't remember what it was called, the Residents Access to Housing Stability. That is such a great program, and I know that I've experienced it with my mom in another area, and it just really helps folks get a repair done that needs to be done that they can't afford to get done. So I just really, and then it goes to their deed, you know? So that is just a great program, and thank you.
Yep, it ensures they stay in their house.
Yeah.
And they are not one more
Safely.
person that, we would need to take care of in a homeless facility or some sort of transitional housing. So we want them to age in place. That's great. Okay, not seeing any other questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is item 7, the City of Reno Housing Programs presentation by Monica Cochran. And this is a non-action item as well.
Good morning, board members. Monica Cochran, City of Reno, for the record. This morning, I'm here to give you a brief overview of a plan that was presented to our city council earlier this spring. Oh, I'm going to do this. Okay. First, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what affordable housing is, just as a refresher for us. As most of us know, affordable housing typically is for households making 60% or less than area median. So in general, for a family of 4, this would be a little over $56,000, and for a single person, about $39,000. And a unit is typically identified as affordable if a household is paying less than 30% of their income towards housing costs. So, due to the nature of much of our constant funding, we've historically focused on programs that serve eligible populations as identified by HUD. With the transferring of homeless services to the county, we were able to take a step back and define who we are, what we do, and how we can move forward. What we really have and will focus on is creating viable living environments for low to moderate income families, which is now our mission. And we have several goals to help us accomplish this that I'll discuss in a few slides. The way we meet these goals is by programs and projects that we target, supporting policy decisions and collaborating with outside agencies and other city departments. We have 4 goals to help us achieve our mission, which are to increase affordable housing stock, increase residents' housing stability, invest in low to moderate income neighborhoods, and keep and improve affordable units. So, goal number 1, to increase affordable housing stock. The most recent report I reviewed showed that we have about 10,000 affordable units in the region, and about 70% of them are in the city of Reno. So we know that even with the number of units we have, we still have a great need for more subsidized units, which again is for those folks at the 60% and less of area median. In an effort to help create more units, we're working towards securing additional funding besides our normal home allocation and affordable housing trust funds. Sorry, I got Invisalign and it's really hard to talk, so I apologize. This past spring, the Reno City Council allocated about $13 million in ARPA funds towards several affordable housing projects. We're working statewide on policy and legislative changes, focusing on building stronger partnerships, and we have a new position that will be focusing on data collection. The city also has a program that waives sewer and building permit fees for eligible projects. Since its inception in 2020, approximately 1,000 units have been approved for this incentive. In addition, the city also allocates our volume cap towards affordable housing projects, which is about $14 million. Goal 2, to increase residents' access to housing stability. Several programs help us accomplish this goal. Since we expanded the rental and deposit assistance program in June of 2020, we've provided about 1.2 million in sources outside of pandemic funding and approximately 4.2 million in ERAP, emergency rental assistance funding, assisting a total of about approximately 1,600 households. We administer the Reno Works program in a partnership with VOA, which helps with workforce training and housing stability. We also partner with other programs that help folks at the very low AMI reach housing stability. Goal 3, we invest in low to moderate income neighborhoods. This is something that we've done for many, many years. We typically use our CDBG funding for these types of activities. So each year we go through an internal process that vets proposed projects with several groups and aligns with our capital improvement plan. All of these projects are initiated in block groups that have more than half their households with incomes at or below 80% AMI. This helps also with some accessibility for those with limited mobility. Some examples of recent projects are improvements to Evelyn Mount Northeast Community Center, Trainer Pool, Yory Park, Mayor's Park. And this year, I'm happy to say we're making significant improvements to the playground at Paradise Park with a very large investment. Additionally, we help with funding for needed accessibility improvements citywide. In an area that's new to us and we're preliminarily exploring is workforce housing. This would be housing for those folks above that 60%. So around the 60 to 120. These are typically not units that would get the funding that the 60% and below units get. Our last goal is to keep and improve affordable housing units. And I apologize, there's a typo that says goal 1, but it is goal 4, and it's last but definitely not least. As we're trying to increase our affordable housing stock, we're also simultaneously trying to preserve existing units. Some of the ways we're doing this is working with developers to provide funds for needed rehabilitation in exchange for additional periods of affordability. So if they're getting ready to expire in coming years, we can invest more funds into them and then extend that period of affordability. Another example is that we're helping homeowners stay in their homes. We partner to help with needed health and safety repairs that the folks would otherwise not be able to afford, and that's through a partnership with Rebuilding Together Northern Nevada. And I know that was quick, but those are the 4 goals, and that's how we're trying to get there. And if you have any questions, I can answer them for you.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions by the board? Yes, Councilmember Dare.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, everything we do, every one step forward, it's a family, it's a human, so thank you, it's perfect. I just want to say at large, I think I love both of these. When we began CHAB, we definitely obviously had a goal of doing all that we do with those who have found themselves without a home or a place to stay. However, that was only one piece of it. The other piece was making sure we found a way to keep people in their homes where we don't have to keep trying to pick them up, put them back in. And so I think every piece we do, whether it's collaboratively, separate, whatever, it's all together and all lists the whole ship. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Okay,
Great job. Thank you.
This is great. Thank you so much for giving us that update. And item 8, Reno Metropolitan Statistical Area MSA Housing Outlook presentation by Brian Bonifant from University of Nevada, Reno. This is also a non-action item. Welcome.
This is good stuff.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. Brian Bonifant, Project Manager for the Center for Regional Studies. And in order to understand our very hot housing market, we need to understand our very hot job economy right now. The most recent job data out of Department of Employment is July. If we take out the pandemic years of 2020, 2021, we were 10,400 jobs above July 2019. If we just look a year back, we're 99,800 over last July. Where we're growing in those jobs is those top green bars: manufacturing, construction, transportation, warehousing, professional business services. Those are the industries we've been growing in since 2014, of course. But the important point is the wages. If you look at those wages, almost about $40 an hour on an annual, that's $83,200 per year. Again, we've been adding, between 2014 and 2019, we added 9,100 jobs per year. So that's kind of the tracking at the pace we're doing. In addition to those high wages, it's really the unemployment rates that are really impacting our housing market. 3.2%, the most current in the Reno MSA. Prior to the pandemic, we were bumping around 2.8, 2.9. Anything less than 4, is full employment. We're definitely going to need in-migration, right, to fulfill those jobs. And this shows the most recent data. Census Bureau is having a really hard time getting current data out, so we're having a really hard time getting that 2020 data because of that decennial census they had to do and the pandemic. So we're still waiting on a lot of 2020 detailed data, so we're still using 2019 on the migration side. However, prior to the pandemic, showing real strong migration numbers, the strongest over the 11 years you're seeing up there because that uptick in that in-migration, that blue bar. We do have the 5-year American Community Survey, ACS data is out, a 5-year average, 2016-2020. And this will show us the age ranges that we're getting. The in-migration to Washoe County is being led by 20 to 29-year-olds, and this has been the case for a few years now, which is really good for our labor force, really good for our economy, but we got to house them, right? So that's the number one buyer when they get 10 years after grow up 10 years, they're now buying homes. And so that's putting that demand pressure on our market. 65 and over at the bottom. The red on the column over there is your U.S. representation of that age range. You're seeing 25% of our in-migration at 2029. They only represent 14% across the U.S. When you look at the 2019 one-year data, that jumps up to 30%. Of the 20-29-year-olds. When you look at the 65 and over, we're getting 9% of our immigration is that cohort, but the representation across the U.S. is 16%. So we really don't get that retirement in migration, right? And it's mostly to do with the weather. In-migration county to county, still 2019 data, but this trends very closely through the years. We've been tracking it, and number one is always Clark County, Las Vegas. It sends Washoe County. This map is a hot to cold, so your hot colors are the ones who send us the most to Washoe County. Number two on that list is Asia, and that is because of Panasonic, of course. And then you get down to the usuals. The number one county in California is LA County. And then you get into that I-80 corridor counties that then pick up a lot of our in-migration. A third, how many persons from California do we get in Washoe County? It's a third. A third of our in-migration is always California. The third is outside of Nevada, California. And then the third is the balance of Nevada counties. So it's always the thirds that we see in the in-migration data. So a third from California. And then outside of Nevada, California, the hot spots is Phoenix, Seattle, and Honolulu, if you look at this top 30. Population, so we grew last decade 65,000, just based on that decennial 100% count. So that stuff is right on 65,000 last decade, whereas we grew 82,000 in the prior decade. So we grew at 1.4% last decade, 2.2 in the previous decade. So we did grow a little bit slower last decade. The red bar is your Census Bureau annual estimates, and the blue bar is your state demographer estimates. They're both official. The state demographer allocates your taxable sales data, down to the local governments. So very important, can be appealed, always is. And the Census Bureau does not provide county-level projections in population, whereas the state demographer does on the right side there, and he is projecting an annual 1.5% moving forward. He does have a couple 2% next couple years moving forward. However, that's probably the catch-up because his 2021 estimate is less than the 2020 100% decennial count. So he's already has to play catch up. That's the 2% the next couple of years to kind of catch up with that decennial count. We probably have reached the 500,000 population milestone. July 1, according to the census, 2021, we were at 493, and it's very conceivable that we added 7,000 persons over the last year. So July 1, 2022, it's very conceivable that we hit the 500,000 mark in Washoe County. The data's not out. When that comes out, we'll know. Let's look at the new home sales activity. Calendar year to date, this is by month, the blue bars, the number of sales. The red squiggly line is your median prices. But calendar year to date through July, our new home sales are down 15% compared to 2021. You can see the red line. We blew added 100,000 to the median in 2021, and we've added 100,000, through the 7 months of 2022 already. You see in those prices, a lot of talk is it supply or demand? Is it inflation? Is it supply chain? Is it wages? Or is it the demand for more expensive houses? Second quarter, the number one development for new home sales was Caramella Ranch or Estates in Damani Ranch, Toll Brother project. That median price, they sold 60 homes in 2Q. That median price was $937,000. So that tells us that it's a demand-driven appreciation going on. The number two sales was Eagle Canyon Ranch with 30 sales in 2Q again, and that median value was $700K for that development. So again, we're seeing a lot of demand side of pushing up prices. A lot of we're continuing to add inventory, which is really helps with that, with the prices and affordability. We've almost reached 5,000 new units added to tax rolls in the last 4 years. The blue portions of those bars is single family. The red bars is multifamily, and we have a really good chance to meet that 5,000 unit goal again in 2022. Which on the very right side, but going into 2023, of course, that blue portion of that bar, you should expect that to decrease, right? We're 15% down in those sales already. Mortgage rates really didn't kick up till April, so that we're probably gonna be looking at about a 20% dip in new home sales in 2022. So expect that in 2023, a little bit pullback by the builders. However, that red bar should maintain at about 2,500 units for next couple of years. And why is that? And that's because of these vacancy rates, which is the blue bars, continuously very, very, very low, below 3% on a constant basis. When the pandemic started in the third Q or second Q of 2020, our listings of existing homes went to almost zero. And so the only thing providing housing to that in-migration for those great jobs is apartments, apartments, apartments. That's why you see so much under construction. And so when the builders see this vacancy rate of 2.66 for continuation, they're going to continue to build. Plenty in the pipeline. We're tracking about 275 residential developments across the Truckee Meadows. 32,000 are entitled. Another 32,000 are pending. You see the scatter map. The blues are approved, red pending, green under construction. The most new home sales is Spanish Springs, continuously is. And then you jump over to the North Valleys because of that drive to qualify, that nice low median of 500K. And then you go down the Damani, which has the highest prices of all the sales down there in 2Q. They're looking at 860. The blue on the bottom is that Sierra Reflections, which the county just denied that extension. They've been coming extensions for several years. That was just denied. So they got to come through that whole process again. That may never happen. So that blue is going to be taken off the map. The blue above it, Ascente, was just bought by Toll Brothers. So that will get built out. And then you have seen the scattering of Damani, of the Toll and ours, which is well on its way for full absorption. And above that is then Daybreak. Daybreak's kind of more or less of infill, but that's it for the South, really. I mean, when you look at the forward next decades, the South is going to be done. Topographically challenged. You got no more areas to build. So it's all going to move north, right? Spanish Springs, North Valleys is where the future next 20 years is where the growth's going to happen. Thus, the land builds, you get up into those stretches, a lot of federal land. And so there's a lot to be done to get into these lands so we can continue that growth, because that's the only room for our growth is those flat North Valleys, right? Let's look at our problem child, which is existing home listings. Upper left is your new listings. The yellow dots are your 2022 months compared to the last couple of years. The blue, I believe, is the 2019 compared to really the pre-pandemic stuff. And we did really well with the new listings until July, and then we have some really disappointing numbers in the new listings coming in, which is not good for that price appreciation pressure, upward pressure. But what the good news, some days of contract, we were running at 6 days to contract for over a year. So now we're about 30 days now to contract. That really helps then to build that active listing inventory in the bottom graph to build up that inventory into almost 2019 trend or totals. Here's the existing home sales. Again, the number of sales by month in the blue bars, and the prices in the red. Again, in that product also, blew through. Add 100K to the median in 2020. Add another 100K in 2021. Boom, brakes put on in April due to that mortgage rate increase. You look at the last few months in the appreciation rates. Which are year over year, May 24%, June 13%, July 9%, August 7%. So you start seeing now our out of control appreciation rates are starting to come back to earth. Through the rest of 2022, we expect the appreciation rates year over year to be between 4 and 8%. To finish out the year. However, when we get to 2023, in the first part of 2023, we do expect some really plateauing, even maybe a negative in that appreciation rate in a couple months when you compare it to those very, very high prices of the early 2022. Overall, the sales in the existing market is down 13% calendar year to date versus 21. A lot to talk about. Investors, corporate investors coming in the area and buying up the single-family homes. We continuously take the assessor data and look at that tax cap rate, 8%, right? If you're 8%, it's not a primary residence, and this is what this calculates, is how many non-primary residents in the single-family product in Washoe County across several years and quarters. And we're bumping right along at about 30%, and that's been the norm for 15 years. So we're not seeing that BlackRock corporation types come in and buy a significant amount of single family. We're just not seeing it in our area. Let's get to affordability and incomes. This is income and the median family income, your green bar, median household in the blue bar, and then try to get some more current data because the census is so behind. We added BEA per capita income in the red bar. If you look across all metrics on an annualized basis, our incomes have been growing 5 to 6% based on the measurement since 2012. Back then, inflation sub 2% back then, so a lot of real income growth happening in our area in the last 8-9 years. For more better understanding of wages and income, we look at wages from Department of Employment, some more better current data. And the left side is Washoe County, right side is Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. The blue is the jobs, and the red bar is the wages. Washoe County side, 9% increase in wages 2020, 8% 21, but the Tri-Center is really what's really driving the show with wages, 27% 20 and 14% 21. The fourth quarter average wage is 45, almost $46 an hour in the Tri-Center. That's $90,000 a year. Wages are very seasonal, so 4Q is a very high number. The 1Q 2022 wage, which is the most recent, brings that down to $40 an hour in the Tri-Center and $29 in Washoe County. Okay, so this is kind of our affordability graph by industry. So we take all these industries on the bottom, and then we look at if you're a single earner in the blue bar. The Census Bureau reports that Washoe County has 1.8 earners per household. Okay, so that's the red bar is the 1.8 earners of those industries. So we take the wages of those industries and we apply it into our affordability calculator that we have built. And so that left axis of the prices, those are what the prices, those wages in those industries can afford. Blue bar, you're on your own. With the red bar, you have an additional earner in your household, so you get to afford more, correct? The green horizontal lines are those current prices of home by product. So new single-family detached, then existing detached, and then new townhome, your townhome condo, and then the existing below that. So those bars have to grab up and reach those horizontal green lines to afford that product. And so what you see in the snapshot is most industry wages cannot afford a detached single-family product. You got to get into that missing middle, the attached product, and you really got to have a second earner in your household to really afford to buy a house in our region. Same thing goes to rental side. We can do the same calculation on just for rents. Same thing, a detached single-family home is out of reach on a rent basis for most industries. Where you're going to move in down into, if you look at the Class A apartments running about $1,700 a month, most workforce industries can afford that rent of $1,700 if they pair up with an earner. Appreciation rates, this is by quarter. This is for existing single-family markets since 2002 to show give you a feel for appreciation rates. Those are the actuals in the red. The blue is a 4% average annual appreciation rate that we calculated between 1990 and 2001. It's a very good decade to use. Not a lot of volatility in that decade. And so we run that out and you see how far down that is. But look at the wages. We do a lot of back and forth with this, especially with the housing industry. And when you look at the wages, 5 to 6% going back 8-9 years, we put that green bubbles on there to give you a 6% appreciation rate since 2002. And boom, we crossed that at 4th Q 2021. So according to a 6% appreciation rate, we surpassed it in the last 2 quarters for sure. Interesting is, since the bottom of the housing market to the pandemic, we're at 11% average annual appreciation rate. As soon as the pandemic hit, we doubled that to 22%. Again, moving out, and expect 4 to 8%, and then 2023, a much, much flatter trend to that red line. Moving forward, this is 5 years. So basically, this is kind of just as a conceptual of how much things are going to get expensive, and it's based on jobs, wages, inventory, and in-migration. If we continue this hot in all those 4 sectors, if we continue where we're going in 5 years, our median prices will be $800,000 for a single-family home. If we start cooling down, if the feds do it properly and we just kind of cool into that blue zone between 4 and 6%, the jobs and wages kind of cool down, but we remain low inventory and we still get that California migration. We'll still be in that blue zone between 4 and 6. What we're kind of looking at 2023 now is that stagnant inflation. When the inflation doesn't go away, the jobs start getting impacted, unemployment rates rise, home inventories rise, people stop moving as much, and you'll start seeing below 4%. And then that red, there's supposed to be a red line to show that, the crash point of negative appreciation. You really need an ongoing economic recession, significant job and pop loss and a lot of inventory. But we just don't think that's going to happen in our region. When you look at the economic clusters in our area, we're doing really hot and heavy with the logistics side because of this post-global economic situation we're in with nearshoring, just in time going to just in case. So our logistics is going to continue to hum along very strong. We're a hub of the West, nicely located. And then you've got in our backyard is a lot of fed land, which creates another economic cluster. Fallon NAS is going to add about 2,000 jobs, expand their military operating areas, a lot of subcontractors in that mix. So that's its own little economic cluster in our region. And then you get into that real exciting, plug into that EV world or the battery manufacturing. And now with Redwood Materials and American Battery doing the recycling part of that loop. And now if you can get the lithium mines going, Thacker Pass up there's got probably 75-80% of their approvals. You get that into the loop and you've got an economic cluster that's going to last several decades. We sold 300,000 EV cars across the world in 2010, and last year we sold 8.5 million. We're just in this baby infancy of the EV world, and so if you think about what's in our backyard, where this is going to go, this is why we don't think we're going to crash. And even the federal government, when President Biden's first executive order issued was to look at supply chains, and within this, it looks at rare earth minerals. Nevada has 18 out of 25 important rare earth minerals to explore. And in addition to our economic clusters in the backyard, you got to think about what's happening with climate change impacting industries. A lot of corporations have what they call ESG policies, environmental, social, governance policies that require them to go into areas of renewable energy. In our state, there's 11 geothermal powering plants in Nevada. All 11 are in Northwest Nevada. And so it's in our backyard. And that's why we think our region is not going to have another crash like 2008 and 9, but it's just going to be a correction. So, looking out, it's pretty much all the common sense that I just covered. I won't drag you through that and torture you with that. So if you have any questions, let me know.
So much, Brian. I love your presentations. I think all of us are like, oh my gosh, but this is all very helpful and underscores the importance of figuring out how to get our service workers housed, because they really are the most vulnerable population when it comes to incomes. Do I have any comments or questions by the board? Yes, Councilman Dare.
Yeah, I just think this page here, where you put the lines in the wages for rent and for purchase for homes.
Yes.
I'll tell you, that's something that we need to just get out there to everybody. That's very telling and kind of tells us how important the job of what we're trying to do with affordable housing for people. I mean, our kids, there's no way our kids are ever going to get to stay in our area if we don't find some answers, or our seniors who are locked in at where they're at and if they have to move at all. So very concerning in a lot of ways, but it's just interesting to see that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the columns show a 5.5% mortgage rate. In the last couple of days, it's gone up to 5.9. Right. And you're going to see tomorrow's CPI numbers come out, which is going to tell the feds, do they do a 75 basis point rate rise, which they're probably going to do anyways. 75 next, and then a 50 basis point rise in December is going to put that additional pressure on mortgage rates to go up. So we're probably going to see north of 6% in 2023. And when you do a 6% on these graphs, those bars really come down. And so your green lines are just going to be out by themselves, and nobody's going to be able to afford a house.
My concern with this as well, we talk about the missing middle, but right now it seems throwing certain size homes and things like that in there that's not going to change anything. It just means there's more homes that people can't afford.
Correct. I mean, we got to get into some very creative thinking moving forward. And I think, there's a lot of organizations, a lot of programs looking at this right now, modular building, how to rezone, how to, more incentives. So, I mean, from an outsider, as a Switzerland, looking at all these programs and all these efforts, we feel that our area has answers that we are providing, or at least trying solutions out. And I think we're ahead of the game. If you look at other areas, in California, especially right over the border, I think we're on a really good track if we continue these programs. And I know we're working with RTC to see how we can look at some land incentives on taking down those land prices and allow the builder to come in there and do their market rate. So there's stuff we're trying. We've been looking at this, I've been looking at it for decades, but for the last few years, I think what I've been seeing and reading in the tea leaves is there's a lot of programs and a lot of stuff coming to play that's going to help, the soft landing this. Really, it's this recession. When you start going to unemployment, the feds are going to try to force a 5% unemployment rate just to bring down inflation. Those loss of jobs, we got to be prepared for that safety net for those people, because that's just a Fed-induced action that's going to cause pain on local governments. And so just be aware, moving ahead 2023, there's going to be pain felt. There's going to be job losses. There's going to be the need for safety nets.
Thank you. Wow.
Any other? Yes, Councilman.
Mr. Bonifant, thank you so much for the presentation. It's a lot to digest, obviously, especially at Monday morning at 10 a.m. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm tracking. A couple of things. Number one, I know that you have for many years provided this kind of evidence-based approach to the area's challenges that we face. And so this is not the first time I've seen your excellent work, and I thank you for it. I want to focus on one slide, which was the slide related to residential developments, both approved and unapproved, unbuilt, I guess, and approved, but pending or unapproved. I guess what I'm trying to do is synthesize your excellent work because as policymakers, of course, we're trying to take the numbers that you give us, and there were a lot of them, and we're trying to apply them to something practical for our community. And so you have seen government struggle with these issues for years, and I think you had some comments to Mr. Deher's commentary about what you observe to be our path. Of course, we sit today as the Community Homeless Advisory Board, CHAB, and so our focus is perhaps a bit different than some of the elements of this, but it all is related, right? Homelessness or being unsheltered is related to the other side of the coin of housing affordability, and you said that, our goal is to figure out ways in which we could use the data to avoid the pain that we might feel maybe in another year. So I'm trying to understand what this slide in particular, what that is to speak to. What do we use that to measure our goal setting or the efforts that cities can undertake?
Great question. When we first started putting this together in the 1990s, everything we do, as an outreach entity at UNR is to answer what the community needs are. And so we put this together because a title company came to us and wanted a seamless, non-jurisdictional look at the growth in Truckee Meadows. And then from there, it really, once we started putting it out, it was Sierra Pacific Power used it to plan utilities, especially in the South. When South Meadows was blowing up, they started using this to plan utilities. School districts have been using it for over a decade on planning school infrastructure. And so what this provides is growth metrics. It provides you rooftops to plan roads, utilities, schools moving forward. I like to, when I covered it, just to show that you're done in the South. And, next 10 years, you got growth. But after daybreak, it's all north. And so whatever happened to that land, what's going to happen to the land bill is super important. To move that forward. And mostly, as you drive around, for me, it's about transportation networks, right? About, these roads. That North Valley is going to blow up significantly. And you got 2 lanes. I think you got more lanes on Moana Lane than you got on 395 coming out of North Valleys. And so that, to me, is red alarms right there, is that these transportation networks, and then, again, into the other utilities, into schools, trying to get the land from the federal government is going to be really, really important to plan. That's our 20 years out stuff. And so that focus should be on the north, those two valleys. Spanish Springs is a cul-de-sac, whereas 395 North Valleys, it goes through into other communities into California. These other connector roads and it all, as the more we grow and as time wears on, things get more expensive. And so trying to track down the funds now and get that in place so we're not trying to do it in 20 years, I don't care how fast things absorb, you're going to need the land and infrastructure down the road. And so there's a lot we could discuss on how to use this data in the future. It's always available. We work really closely with the school district to get this into a really micro scale for them. And I think we'd be open to do that with whoever.
Well, I think for my point is that this is both the future, but it's also the present, right? This tells me that there are a number of developments that are approved but unbuilt, both in the single family and multifamily, and yet, there's a constant pressure about the lack of housing available. And so we as a city, and I'll just speak for myself, we approve projects, but it doesn't mean they come to fruition very quickly. And you can tell with some of these projects that you noted had come on, but then maybe lost their approval or fell out. This question about zombie projects. But all of it is to say that as we sit here today as the Community Homeless Advisory Board, these issues impact folks at every range. And again, my focus today is on those that are most vulnerable populations. And what I notice here is unless we are looking at the approved unbuilts and thinking about the affordability metric at the same time, which is a different slide, we won't be moving the needle very much as to the folks who are in the most vulnerable position. And so it just counsels me to come back to what the purpose of this body is today and think more critically about how we get those housing metrics to fit the folks who need the housing the most. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments by the board? I agree with my board members that this is really helpful for us, and I think will focus us. The data of 26% of our employment is in that retail trade, leisure and hospitality. Interest rates go up. What's the first thing to do that goes? You're not going to travel. And so I think it's figuring out how we can make sure those folks don't fall through, like you were saying, those safety nets and creative ways to keep them in their housing and support them. And I think that that's, something that we need to be continuing to move the needle on, both Washoe County, the city of Sparks, and city of Reno. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, next up is a board update and discussion on the Nevada Cares campus by Dana Searcy, Washoe County, and this is also a non-action item.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dana Searcy, Washoe County. And so while we're building all of that housing, we are working also on our CARES campus to stabilize and create enough capacity to support those who are staying with us there. As always, we are focusing on staffing and training, safety and security, facilities and the construction that's going on, and also our partnership development. Today, we'll be taking you through a little later in the presentation what our supportive housing applications for the Home Means Nevada funding look like, enhanced security, medical services that are now on site at campus, as well as a look at what those partnerships and volunteers look like, staffing and recruitment updates, and a construction quick update on what is going on. I will point out that is a picture of our restroom and shower facility. The walls are going up. It's probably about 3 times as tall as when this picture was taken just a couple days ago. So lots of excitement there. So security, our welcome center is open. We now have VOA at our front desk checking people in. We are issuing clarity cards. You need to have a clarity card in order to get onto the campus, and there is staff there to help you get that clarity card. The intake and diversion team is also up and running inside that welcome center, as well as security. Both bag scanners and metal detector walkthroughs are in place. Those are just a couple quick stats from the first 3 or 4 weeks that we had that building up and running. We are talking about 1,700 people a day walking through those scanners. That is a huge amount of work going on in a little tiny building, but we're just very appreciative. It's going very well, and a lot of knowledge is coming out of this process. You can see there are non-medical CARES campus calls. They are just starting to dip. We hope to continue to see that, but that's your trend line that we're watching. Medical services is also on site now. That started August 15th. We have our CNA and nurse on site 8 hours, 7 days a week, as well as a prescriber that will be there. They're not quite there yet, but 20 hours a week is the plan for our prescriber. You can see that trend line is taking a pretty large dip. A couple things are going on. We've got MedTrust on site. We also have our nurse call line in place with REMSA. It's a place for staff and participants to be able to call and talk to a nurse before they're picking up the phone and dialing 911. And then also our medical and MCO support partners are also on site. And we continue to see these calls go down. This is the list of partners. I know this is very small. It continues to grow. There are now 21 partners in place. There's a pretty large dynamic schedule that's posted on the campus. They're all coming and have some pretty specific roles when they're there. We are also working through processes to get a couple others, specifically right now, some clinical activities around vaccinations, that kind of thing, and also voter registration. Our volunteers, there's now 20 volunteers on site on an ongoing basis. Most of this is through serving meals and community mail and the campus activities. The construction at the campus is still very dynamic as we get all of these buildings in place. We now have 15 temporary buildings on site. That includes our MedTrust trailer for them to be able to see clients, as well as all of the buildings brought in for the case managers and the behavioral health staff and the partners that are coming on site. Again, we're about ready to close down that dorm A inside the sprung because construction will be starting. So that large light blue square on the screen, that's our food tent. Again, that will be heated and cooled. We have plumbed water in there for drinking water stations. That building will be open every single day from 6 to 6 for outside guests as well. It will also remain open 24 hours a day for individuals to have space to spread out and to get water and that kind of thing at the campus if you're staying at the campus. And it will serve over the winter, or right now it's smoky, over the winter when we need some warming space. That is also a space that we're using for that. And showers, our continuing situation with our shower buildings. If you remember, the main shower building for our men, we had significant mold issues about 6 months ago. That building was shut down, and we moved all the men into the second shower building, and a trailer was purchased for the women. That includes 13 showers for the men and 5 for the women, as well as some ADA accessible units. We are now seeing similar issues in the second shower building, so we're working through what that looks like. There'll be some work going on site to make sure that those facilities last through March, which is our timeline right now for that first shower and restroom building opening up. This is the layout right now of the site. We're not doing a large construction update today, but I wanted to show you where all of these housing units are, as you may hear that we have put in several applications at the state. We are just about moving forward, with the city of Reno on our special use permit, conditional use permit for this site. So these images will be shared with the Planning Commission at the City of Reno, and we'll continue to work through what this all looks like. But up on the map, you can see that Phase 4 supportive housing. That is the 50 units of housing that we've been talking about from the very beginning. That is about a $20 million chunk with all of the utility and groundwork around that building of our original budget. That has been put through to the state of Nevada to see if we can get some funding for this building. The Phase 5 supportive housing up here has also been put in as a potential project. This is an exact replica of the building design that was created for that Phase 4 building, and it nicely fit on the 1 acre of property that we gained at the Safe Camp by raising up that bowl. If you'll recall, there's about an extra acre there. If this housing project is not supported through the state, this will go on kind of a back burner for us, but the utilities and all the work needed for that site to eventually have 50 units of housing is going in as part of the original construction cost. So that is, you'll see that, and that is very much in flux. If it is not funded, then the plan right now would be to go to an RFP to see if we can get somebody to partner with us to build that project out. And then also the tan box up here, the 3 acres that we've been talking about quite a bit, the future supportive housing, that is another project. The county ran an RFQ to look for partners who are interested in building supportive housing. One of those partners has also put in at the state of Nevada, very separate from the county, but it would be here on the CARES campus, 120 units of supportive housing and very low income housing would be that project. So all of this is moving along, and we're all in various stages of funding and all of that, but we wanted to share how it's all coming together and what this looks like. Staffing, I included the last couple months that we've met to look at how those staffing numbers have changed. You can see that we are moving in the right direction. There's been significant progress on the number of staff positions that have been filled, and we can feel that on site at the campus. Most of the county positions are filled. We have 1 remaining counselor, mental health counselor available. Allied is looking much better, and Karma Box is and has been full. And VOA has seen a pretty large increase in the number of staff. They've put in several different processes. There is now a full-time person on site working on recruitments and training. There's a lot of work going into that. They've done a great job. And this is our John to Carmine update little cheat sheet that we continue to show you. I know John is joining us right after this presentation to give his own update. But we're seeing more things move over into the in-process and operational. Specifically, we have established baseline trainings and are working through the process of making sure all staff have received all of those trainings. Flexible funds for diversion, this is now in place. And our diversion team, as we said, is in the intake building and they are up and running. John will be joining us again in December timeframe, and that will be the focus of his visit, is to work with that team and make sure they have what they need to be able to support the needs at that campus. And lastly, our data. This looks a little bit different because we are showing specific snapshots off of our website. All of the data is now live on our website and will be updated each month. This will be for the shelter, and Safe Camp will join soon. So I'm just pulling a couple here. These are the ones that we've shared with you most often. Our bed nights, we're still, 18,000 each month. That's every head on every bed each night. This is our unduplicated client list. If you'll recall, the first year we were looking at about 3,500 unique individuals at the campus. We've seen that the variation come down quite a bit, so we're about 900. This is only people staying inside the shelter. This is not people who use the campus for day services. So we're glad to see that number down. It means that less people are in and out each day and are staying a little longer. And this is our most exciting news and graph for the day. We have doubled our housing placements. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for the support and the funding and the direction needed here to make sure that we have the staff in place and the resources in place to make this happen. This is what we're hoping for. So again, our goal is to see about 50 housing placements. This is only permanent housing placements out of the CARES campus each month. And then this last slide is just the website. If you go to the CARES campus website, it is on there. But again, there's about the 10 or 12 graphs that we've all talked through. A lot of the demographics, age, ethnicity, and that kind of thing is also posted. I will share one more update that is not in here, actually, that came up. You will notice on our dashboard that there are significantly more beds available in the CARES campus. That is not because less people are staying at the campus. We've changed the methodology of how we're working through the building each day to determine which beds are available. So VOA staff performs checks every 2 hours all the way through the campus. And we were operating on, if you have been there once in 24 hours, you would keep your bed. We've moved that up to 3. We are experimenting, but what we have found out is a lot of people come and leave their belongings and need the storage service, but they don't actually need the bed or they're not sleeping in the bed. So we're playing with some things so that when winter comes and we need as many beds as we have and we need an accurate count, we will have that. So the last week we've seen about 70 beds open in the campus. That's a pretty big drop from maybe the 20 or so that we had been seeing before that. Okay.
Thank you. Do I have any? Yes, Councilwoman Weber.
Thank you so much. As always, you and your staff and everyone, I just want to say thank you. Great work. But I've been approached, and I want to share, you mentioned the black mold. Could you go into a little more detail on that? Because I've heard that people are still using those rooms, and how does the health department allow that to happen?
Yes, so the first room had mold, the first shower that has been closed about 6 months. That is the building we shared pictures with you guys in December and January when this was happening. The mold was growing on the ceiling. And what happened eventually is that ceiling caved in before enough work was able to do to patch it all. At that time, we looked at what it would cost to fix that building. Essentially, we're putting 500 people taking a shower inside a metal building. It's just not holding up to the use. So we considered the cost of fixing that versus purchasing a different building for the women to use. There's much less women on site. And that was the direction that we went with. At the same time, when we moved all the men into the second building in effort to keep it moving, keep it going, we know we needed to make it about a year before our new buildings are opening. There was some work done to treat the mold, which was nowhere near as severe as what we were seeing in that first building. And also a lot of changes were put in place by VOA. They started closing the building down at night to make sure that it could air out and dry out. They started scheduling showers to make sure that everybody who needed a shower would get a shower. And that removed a lot of the need for any additional work inside the building. So we've been fine until recently. Mold does pop up. It is treated and removed when it is seen. But what has happened right now is the drainage in those buildings is not very good. And so the floor is starting to seep inside the doorway of this this building that we are currently using. So a large plate has been placed on that floor to keep it stable until more major work can occur. We are talking about, we're waiting for the bid, but I've been told it's just under $100,000 in work. So it's very significant. We are not taking it lightly, but we need a safe place for everybody to shower until March, which is a long way away, and especially with the construction world as it is, we need to make sure that if there are delays or whatever should happen, we have functioning showers that are safe for use. So it is not being left. No one is using the showers in a way that we're ignoring the problem, if that's fair to say.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilman Dare.
Yeah, just real quick, can you give me an update on Safe Camp? I got to go down and see what was along the sidewalk and how it's working great. I think you were there. I think we walked it a little bit, or someone did. And but I know looking at this, it's going to go on the grass area and things like that. Is that moving forward soon, or is that a future?
Yes. No, Safe Camp is under construction. They are just finishing all the groundwork and utility work inside the bowl. The latest updates for that is that we should complete the construction in about December. So that's moving and will be done a lot faster than everything else. We're seeing quite a lot come together in December. Right now, we're being told that Ames Construction, that is staging the spaghetti bowl work back there behind the Safe Camp and behind the Sprung, they are planning right now that looks like December for them to vacate that area as well. Safe Camp will move in December, and then in March, when we get ready to open up that first building for women, the showers and laundry and restrooms, we're actually going to move the entrance of the CARES campus to the north, right down Line Drive, and you'll come in and split, whether it's Safe Camp, the new entrance to the Safe Camp will be right there, or the shelter, and then all the construction will shift to the south of the campus.
Oh, thank you. I think that's a great program. It seems to be working. The other final question is with Christmas coming, with winter coming, and all of the cold weather, is there anything we should know about? Are you guys set for that?
We should be set. I think a lot of people say, what's the plan? The plan is to be prepared and stay dynamic and be able to shift quickly. We're not reducing any capacity. The building that we're moving all of the food service to in the warming area will actually have, greater capacity if we needed it than we had last year. We are planning to open up our overflow just like we had last year. We had 48 beds, if I am not mistaken. We are doubling that. We're going to open up 8 full garage bays instead of 4, just in case. So we're prepared for that too.
Okay, Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Always a joy to hear about the updates, in large part because I know that you're working so very hard, and Volunteers of America also. A lot goes into it. I want to ask first about the volunteer programming that you identify here in one of the slides. So can you just share with me, it says on one of the slides, it says they're serving meals now. So volunteer groups are coming in and providing just different meal opportunities. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So Reno Sparks Gospel Mission does breakfast in the morning, and Catholic Charities does lunch and dinner for both the Safe Camp and the shelter. We are not allowing food from the outside to be brought in other than from those partners right now. Things are very complicated, as you can imagine. And we've also asked that it not be served right at the front of Threckle at that front gate. It's just too full of activity for anything else to happen there. So right now, what we've developed inside the volunteer program is we appreciate that the community really likes to hand out meals, that is associated with helping our neighbors, and that is something that people enjoy doing. So you can come on site and help When Catholic Charities comes in and brings meals, they're dropping off hundreds of meals, and it is these volunteers and filling in with staff that serve those meals. When we get further down the line to our resource center opening up at the campus, that is where we're going to allow community members to bring in meals. Catholic Charities is planning to serve lunch. That's where we'll do lunch every day, but then dinner would be our community members being able to bring those meals in.
Okay, so I think you answered my question. Currently, on the campus, all meals are provided through the different partnerships with the two different organizations. But community groups like, we'll say, Burrito Project or Food Not Bombs, whichever group it is, because there are a number of them, great organizations, they're not operating on the campus, but at some future point in time, you see a role for them to be able to operate on the campus.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask then, just in a follow-up to Mr. Dare's questions about the winter, I suppose, two things are true. One is we've had, of course, over the last week, a lot of smoke in the valley. I assume this makes for increased usage of the shelter site. And so just like anyone else, I'm just wondering about capacity, both smoke, extreme heat, obviously extreme cold. Those are the areas where we're particularly concerned. Sounds like, number one, you have made some changes to the methodology by which you count heads and beds. So that's the first thing. That appears to have freed up some number of beds. Mm-hmm. And then the second part of that is you spoke to the overflow capacity in the garage bays, which I think were very helpful last year. Even some of them weren't fully used, I think, even though they were set up, thankfully. So just talk to us about, we get to December, January, February, whichever ones are the coldest month, and give us some indication that we will not have people outside. That's the concern I have, and perhaps more discussion of that.
Yes. So this past year, we've got 3 different kind of channels going on. We've got beds inside the shelter, where you can be assigned a bed and keep your bed. We have the warming room when you can come in and get a meal and sit there as long as you'd like and take off again, or you can wait for a bed to open up. We also have overflow, and when we're saying overflow, it is outside in those garage bays. It is heated. Last year we saw somewhere between 60 and 65 degrees. Those garage bays were able to hold that temperature with the heaters in them. And those are opening up. They open up about 9 o'clock at night. People can sleep their cots that are set up. They can sleep all night. And then in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, we're cleaning that up and closing it down for the day. And people usually move about their day back into the community, or they move back over into the warming room when breakfast and that kind of thing takes on again. So those 3 areas, we will remain with the same capacity in all 3 of those areas. So that's the 604 actual beds. There's 112 capacity inside that warming room, and we say warming, but that means if it's extreme heat, if there's smoke, that room is open, and that's capacity for people to come into the campus. And also, again, last year we had 48 overflow beds, and we have capacity to double that number this year. Those 48 beds were not full. I think maybe one day they were full. So we're not anticipating a huge increase, but again, that's why we say be prepared and stay dynamic to just adjust as the needs in the community adjust.
And I may have additional questions, but tell me the bed count, because you gave the warming count, the
Yes.
overflow count. What is the bed count currently?
It's 604. And also in December, the Safe Camp, or when the Safe Camp opens, we're holding at 44 Mod Pods right now because that's what fits. That will increase to 50. It's not a huge increase, but when we open, all 50 will be open.
Go ahead.
It sounds like I just have a few more questions, and I apologize for taking up the time. I suppose I want to understand based on the numbers that you put in the chart about usage and some exits to permanent housing, you're headed in the right direction. Also, I'm incredibly encouraged by the staffing, both from your end, which it looks almost fully staffed, but also VOA. We still have some staffing to accomplish, right? So I guess what are we doing to help our operator and just generally speaking, how do we get fully staffed? I mean, the John DeCarmine's recommendations, of course, early on, very much heavily focused on staffing. Where are we headed with staffing?
Absolutely. We have several pieces to this puzzle, right? One is the pay rates. So as a reminder, before the CARES campus opened, the pay rate of frontline staff was $13.75 an hour. When everybody moved over to the CARES campus, that was increased to $15 an hour. And with the new contracts in place over the winter, that was raised to $17 an hour and $19 an hour for overnight shifts. That is now equal pay. The county has brought Karma Box, Rise, and VOA all up to that level so that we're not, picking and stealing staff back and forth depending on what contracts look like. So that's helped stabilize things. Also, the training. The training is a huge aspect of this, and I share this with a lot of new staff on our team. For a while, it was like a hamster wheel. We had, staff coming in, not enough staff to help get people trained appropriately. We had COVID, and the increases that we saw in January hit at the exact same time when staffing was at its lowest level. So it took a little while to start digging out of that. But now, seeing staff there and supported and trained, and all of the work that VOA has done to really make sure that people who are out on the floor in the dorms, they really do have the knowledge and the support and the tools to do the work that they need to be able to do. In addition to that, we're going to see continued support through the other contracts and the county staff on site. 24 case managers, the 6 counselors on site, the MedTrust contract, all of this together starts to reduce the chaos at the campus, and staff across all organizations feel stronger and more prepared to deal with whatever is going on. Whereas before, VOA was really the main staff on the site, and alone they were working through mental health and medical, and not that they're not working through those things now, but there's more support and licensed support on site to help with that. And then further, the next step of this is the construction inside the dorms, which is starting soon. As we develop these 6 different dorms and reduce the number of people from this very large shelter down to 100-person dorms, where staff is assigned, case managers are assigned. Again, we're seeing those relationships develop and more support, and again, less unknown and less being overwhelmed, quite frankly, when you walk into that really large room. So we're hoping that too helps support VOA in the staffing in the staffing world, because that altogether creates a more positive environment.
Thank you. And I just am thrilled by all of these updates, Dana. I mean, you're really moving the needle, and I know it's hard work. So I applaud you and your team. Please go back and tell them how impressed we all were. And to my partners at Reno and Sparks, I appreciate your trust, because when we originally signed a contract for the continuum of care, there was some distrust. And I hope that you're seeing that we're really trying to transform the program and make a difference and get folks housed. So thank you for your partnership. All right. And then, do you have anything else for us, Dana?
No, just VOA staff's in the room too, so a big thank you to them. They're doing an amazing job.
They are incredible, and any support we can give them, just let us know. Okay, next up, we have item 10, board update and discussion on Nevada Cares Campus Service Plan, recommendations by John DeCarmine, JD Consulting LLC. This is a non-action item.
Hi, this is John.
Hello, John. This is the CHAB board. We are calling you for your presentation.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm just muting you on YouTube So yeah, thanks for making some time for me today. For those of you who I have not met, this is John Carmen. I've been working with the CARES campus for the past almost 2 years at this point, and my experience, I've been working in homeless services for over 25 years, both as a consultant and as an executive director for a large shelter in Gainesville, Florida called Grace. And we operate a low barrier shelter for men, for women, for veterans. We have a street outreach team, permanent housing programs, and overall in the past 8 years, we've been able to reduce homelessness in Alachua County, where I'm located, by 47%. We've also seen a 70% decrease in unsheltered homelessness. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, both as a consultant, as a trainer, and as a provider. So I wanted to just really follow up and re-emphasize some of the key points that I heard Dana make, but I want to make sure I start by commending the work of Dana and of Katrina at the county, Scott at VOA, Elizabeth with the county, and of you and local government for your continued support for this project as it moves towards hopefully becoming the national model that it can become. So to back up just a bit, I want to really note a couple things that have really seen some drastic improvement since I had started working with the county on this project. One certainly is that sharp decrease in medical calls. We've seen Washoe County staff be incredibly responsive to the needs of the staff and leadership over the project, including pay, including training, including streamlining the contract, adding the appropriate performance measurements. And referring back to the report I had initially put together, we've seen substantial progress in all of those phase one elements in terms of creating a safe environment, the provision of basic needs, the providing crisis services, conflict de-escalation, trauma-informed care, and diversion services. And as Dana had noted, most specifically and most exciting out of all of that 100% increase in housing placements from where the shelter was at the start to where it is today, and hopefully we can continue to work together to see that improve. So the next steps that we will be taking, I will be out there in December. I believe we're going to be able to time my trip to make sure I'm at the next CHAB meeting. So I'll look forward to seeing you all in person then. During that trip, we'll be doing trainings to continue to flesh out the diversion program. I think all of the right pieces are in place there. And that can be a critical element to the effectiveness of the shelter, really also by making sure that the shelter is serving people who truly have no other place to be. And the diversion program is very effective in screening out those folks who might be able to be assisted with some lesser amount of resources, but still solve their homelessness. We'll be working on boundaries for staff and how to promote safety on campus while still providing a very welcoming environment, but also recognizing that safety on campus doesn't just apply to the people receiving services there, but also the staff who are really holding down all of the services and the ability to provide those services. And then we'll be working on implementation of that length of stay policy. What you've seen so far, we've seen with the count that Dana had shared on bed nights, we see that more beds are being used more consistently, which is good and a good indication that people are comfortable staying in the shelter. But we're also seeing a slight decline in the number of unique individuals who are being served on a monthly basis. I think the last data shown was about 900 people served in July. And what we're looking at here is really trying to make sure that those beds are turning over by us getting people into housing as quickly as possible. And again, based on the data that Washoe County staff have been able to show, we see every indication that things are moving in the right direction, but that length of stay policy will be the next piece to really help us ensure that the shelter is seen as a part of the process to solving the housing problem and not just a destination. Without those housing placements, sure, it's helpful if 604 people a night are staying in the shelter, but if those 604 people, if none of them are being housed, then really you only get to fill that shelter up one time, and then it becomes a hostel for the people staying there, and it's no longer a part of the process to get people back into housing. So Looking forward to being out in December and providing those additional trainings, seeing what other work we can do together. And I want to really stress to this board, this level of improvement in just over a year is absolutely outstanding for a project that's this young and of this scope and size, to be able to pull together so many different variables and help corral them into the progress that we're seeing is nothing short of outstanding. As you saw with the presentation from UNR just prior to this item, housing is not getting better or easier for people. You know, right now, if you've got people in the shelter who are getting a Social Security check, a veteran's pension, or a disability check, and your fair market rent costs twice what one of those checks can cover, then you're going to continue to see homelessness until there are some things that are changed. And there are things that you do as a community and as a homelessness advisory board have control over. That would include the creation of permanent supportive housing units, as we're seeing in the plans for the CARES campus, making sure all of your HUD funding is being used for the most appropriate, effective uses. And beyond that, you know, making sure people have access to drug treatment services, including alcohol, mental health services, and other crisis services, access to health care. One thing I want to point out before I answer your questions is that this project has taken on the monumental task of filling in where so many other systems have failed. And it's incredibly common for the homeless service system, that housing crisis response system, to be expected to solve all of the problems related to homelessness. But it's also very true that if many other systems were operating differently or more effectively, from hospital discharges to jail and prison discharges to the way public housing authorities allocate their scarce resources, homelessness catches the failures of any number of other systems. So there's a limited amount of control that they have, but the ability to respond to the situation in Reno right now, I think could be called nothing short of a success so far. So I just really wanted to emphasize those key points, and from there, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. That's a great data dump. I really appreciate that, and makes me excited that we're on the right track. Thank you so much. Do I have board members that have questions or comments for Mr. DeCarmen? Oh, yes, Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill, Chairwoman. Mr. DeCarmine, good morning. Devin Reese here from the city of Reno. I want to thank you for your comments this morning, especially as they were directed at the county's leadership on this issue. I can tell you that although you and I have not met, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Over the past year and a half, really since the county stepped in to really fulfill the lead role in this area, I think a number of folks in the advocacy community really look to your advice, counsel, your words, and in some ways, I think use them unfairly against the county, right? There were some criticisms, rightfully so, that were leveled early on during this process. I think all of us on this board know that we went down a particular path together very quickly, happened because of circumstance. We created a place which we knew would have to change and evolve over time. And unfortunately, because there were some, shortcomings early on, those were very much used, I think, to paint a picture that was not accurate. So your comments today, I think, will be very helpful to us as we move forward because A, it encourages the people doing this work. Those are the folks like Ms. Searcy and the folks, Mr. Benton, the folks at Volunteers of America, who are really the frontline workers, and that's hard work to do, especially made harder when people are constantly criticizing the work that you do, even though you know that each day you get up and work very tirelessly for the community that needs those services the most. So I think your words of encouragement will really give them the sort of support that they need to keep doing that work. Ultimately, of course, we're all a work in progress. This project is a work in progress. I think as you continue to work alongside of us here in this community, I'm hopeful that you'll be able to keep helping us refine what we're doing here. So that means that you started out with us, and there were some rocky parts and some issues that need to be fixed. They've been working on addressing them. Now, as we get further and further away from where we were at the beginning, and we get closer to what we want to be, which is a very dynamic and engaged community, you'll help us to do that. And so I suppose for my part, as you continue to do the work you're doing in your own community and also see communities elsewhere in this country that are models or things that we can point to as success stories, I would just ask that you help us to continue making those refinements because we want to do the things right. And as you said, I think there are sometimes things that are co-locating issues that sort of collapse in on one another. But can you help us to do that? And what are some examples that you might point to about ways that we can continue the refinement process?
Well, I think that's the big question in every community for homeless services, certainly. And, I come at this work not only as somebody who has experienced homelessness, but as somebody who spent a lot of time protesting outside of City Hall in the late 90s because I was convinced that local government was not doing enough and was not doing it quickly enough to meet what are very real, very urgent human needs. And when you are focused on those very real, very urgent human needs, and you're told, don't worry, we have a solution that should be ready in 1 to 2 to 3 years, that certainly I understand why people come at it from that perspective and say, we need solutions now. I think so far what has happened has done, the community has done an excellent job. As you acknowledged, this project started very abruptly. In retrospect, would this project be perhaps more successful now if you'd started with 100 beds, gotten things right, then expanded to 200? Possibly. But we also needed to be able to move in as many people as possible, to provide some kind of life-saving support to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And so that's led to a situation where we've had to stop and back up. And I think the parts of the project that are currently in place are functioning. There is room for improvement in every piece of the model of any homeless shelter. And those generally are things that improve with ongoing local support, financial support, as well as political support. And those are things that we can see that, there are things that we can see that start now to allow us to point to this is coming together in the ways that we had hoped it would. I'll point again to that 100% increase in housing placements that we've seen over the past year as a shining example of this project doing exactly what it is it needs to be doing and having all of the right momentum to accomplish more and more as it grows.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. DeCarmine, and we really appreciate the update and look forward to continuing to be evaluated and work with you to make this program even better.
All right. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yes, our pleasure. We are now going to item 11, board member announcements, reports, and updates to include requests for future board agenda items. I know that at 1 o'clock today, we have a State of the City by our mayor of the city of Sparks. So I hope folks will be coming out to that at Sparks City Hall. But is there any other board announcements or requests for anything? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I'm just reflecting on, it was 3 years ago in November that we decided to put this CARES campus together. And how far we've come in that short period of time is truly amazing. And the county has done a great job in their leadership in making the services work. Yeah, we had some growing pains, we had some issues, but that's to be expected when you've never embarked on something like this. I see this as a world-class, at least countrywide example for the other communities, and it's happening right here. We had Senator Cortez Masto said that she's never seen anything like what we have currently, and we've just barely started. So, congratulations to the county. You're doing an awesome job. I'm very, very happy with the way things are working out, and just keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Any other board member comments or questions? Seeing none. Okay, we will go to our final public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person, may pertain to matters both on and off the board agenda. The board will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the board as a whole. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay, I will adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes.